Now that we've become familiar with allocating the materials using Rhino's native material editor, we're at a stage in our process where we can gain confidence saving the views for our design and getting our image into a location which is going to be appropriate for our final output. So to begin with, we need to lock down our geometry so we don't inadvertently bump it out of location and force ourselves to re-edit the design inappropriately. So in order to do that, let's open up our layer manager simply by right-clicking. We're going to move ourselves, just for convenience, onto our con layer. We're going to turn off all of the existing con layers, so there's sub layers under con. So I've just simply held down Shift, allocated all of those layers, click them off and reduce that layer again. Now what we need to do is just simply go to the Lock tab under Traffic Light, just left click on that and you can see all of the sub layers are automatically locked off as well. In order to test that, what you'll find is if I click anywhere on the design, it's not selecting anything anymore, and that's just sitting nice and secure in the modeling space. Okay, the next thing we need to do is just make sure we're using the Rhino native plugin. So left click on the Render tab, scroll down to Current Renderer and just double check and make sure it's highlighted with Rhino Render. Now let's make sure our save frames are switched on. This will give us a point of reference on screen that will allow us to determine what the image will look like on our final output. So we simply right click on the Render tab, or alternatively we go to the very bottom of the Render Properties tab and we go to Save Frames. So we're just going to click on the edge there where it says Rendering, click on Save Frame, and we're going to save frame, put the save frame on the perspective viewport. So we're just going to click on Save Frame in Active View, and you can see the rectangles that it will give us once we click off that is the action area at 90% and the title area at 80%. So just to show how that looks, just click OK, and you can see we end up with a series of rectangles around our image, which allow us to get a sense of what the image will look like on the final view. So for our final viewport, final image, what we'll be doing is working in a 2:1 format, so we can set up some preliminary renders for that now. So again, we're going to right click on the Render tab and adjust that to Custom, and then for our preliminary renders all we have to do is work at low resolution, so we can leave that at DPI at 72 DPI, and we're going to simply place that at 1000 by 500 to give us a 2:1 format. So click OK, and you can see that's adjusted on screen. So now, in order to fine-tune our view, some controls we're already fairly familiar with. That's manipulating our model around, but there's three basic controls using the mouse. We've got the right mouse key to orbit the camera. We've got our roll section on our mouse in order to zoom our view, and if we hold down the Shift key and use the right hand key of the mouse, we can pan our camera position as well. So between those three, roughly speaking, we can rotate our design into a whole variety of locations, which will get us into the general region of where we want. So for the purpose of the exercise at this stage, we just want our camera to show the traffic light design on the right hand side of our image, so we've got an asymmetrical composition at the end of the day, and we want the traffic light, loosely speaking, just to sit within the realm of those two rectangles there. So that location works perfectly well. So how do we save that view out? Well, we just simply right click on the Viewport tab, scroll down to Set Views, and at the bottom of that Set View tab, I'll just bring that up again, we've got Name Views. Left click on that and we have our camera's property box, and we can save the view from there. So we just click on the first tab, Save As, and we're going to save that as V1 Ren. Click OK. So once that's saved out, we can always come back to that view for later reference, so we can be working on the design in any given location. Simply double click on that via the camera viewport properties box and we've got our image, or alternatively we can also grab it directly by simply right-clicking on the viewport tab, going to set view, and you can just see on screen there, it's also recorded at the bottom of the set view pull-out menu. So there's V1. We'll repeat that exercise again. So we're going to go to set view, go to name views, and this time we'll get an additional view. So I'm just going to move that off screen. We'll pivot it around to a fresh location, simply toggling between shift and the right key on the mouse. We're going to get an alternate side view of our design. We'll save out that view. So left click. It's asking whether it's V1 Ren. We're going to change it to a new view. V2 Ren, click OK. And you can see we can toggle between those two. Just simply double click. So I'm just double clicking between the two there in order to give us those two saved out views. So we're on V1 Ren. And you can see that it's telling us which view that we're on, because in the upper section of the viewport tab, the name of the camera view has been recorded. Okay, we're just going to pause there for a moment. Now, using the mouse to manipulate our camera is good for a lot of situations, but often we want to fine-tune the view to an exact position at a later stage. So we've got two other options in that regard. We can use the camera icon, or we can use the viewport properties box. So first, let's do it with the camera icon. So we double-click on our viewport, just bring up extents on our view. There we go. We'll right-click to bring it up on all four viewports. Bring up our V1 again. There we go. So we're back in position. Now, in order to turn on our camera, we can just simply toggle F6, or alternatively, we can go to right-click on the viewport properties, go to set camera, and scroll down to show camera. So I'm just going to do that again. Right-click, set camera, show camera. And you should see in your image there's a very clear black triangle on the screen, and that gives you a graphic representation of where the camera sits within the space. We've got the camera position, we've got a pan control, we've got the target position on the camera, we've got a camber position which twists the camera around in space, and we've got a zoom control. So all of those give you all of the basic controls on the camera. So for example, I'm just going to zoom out here, and you can see I can manipulate the camera position accordingly. I can adjust the zoom. I can change the height of my target position, so I'm looking up, down, or otherwise. And I can even twist my camera around in space to whatever location. And if we get lost, all we need to do, I'll just twist that back. All we need to do is simply right-click, scroll to our set view, and go and grab our selected views as required. So I'm just going to click set view. V1 again, there it is recorded in the top. And the next thing we need to do is we can adjust it via the viewport properties box. So let's just bring that up clearly. So we'll just left-click on our view there. And if we right-click on the view tab, you can see at the bottom, viewport properties, left click on that. And for example, if we want our view position to be exactly at the height that someone would be standing, currently it's a little bit low, we can adjust that accordingly. So using metric here, we've got a standard standing height for an average sized person around 1600 millimeters. We click OK, and you can see there's a subtle adjustment now to our camera position. So if we want to present that as an accurate image of someone standing photographing the mobile traffic light design, we can make a numeric adjustment as required. Balance that out against the camera adjustment. So in this particular case, I'm zooming out, and in this particular case, we're pointing the camera closer to the ground, and you can see that subtly adjusts the elevation on screen accordingly. So it allows us to precisely position our view. Okay, let's do a quick test render on that. So I'm just going to pause that for a moment so you can compare. Now let's bring that up. You can see what it looks like on the viewport property with the safe frames in place. I'm just going to pause there, and we'll do a quick render to show you the results. So you can see the resultant preliminary render that we've got here, and that's how it looks like on screen, and we can make subtle adjustments accordingly. So in this lesson, what we've learnt to do is adjust our viewport position with a little bit more precision using the mouse controls, using the camera icon, and using the Viewports Properties box. Okay,